Good morning, Africa. This is Daybreak Live Extra on Dominion Television, your Friday sunrise magazine where vibrant conversations meet perspectives. I'm Adolu Akpoido, welcoming you into a powerful close of the week, and maybe should we start the start of another month?
Okay, I'm Adelako. Whether you're rounding off the work week or gearing up for the weekend groove, we've curated the stories, the context, and the clarity you need to step into your Friday informed and inspired.
And that is right. I am Samson Balogun. Together, we are going, of course, we are going to be your try on the show this morning, and your guides through the headlines, the human stories, and the national pulse shaping this beautiful Friday morning.
We open with a major shift in Nigeria's energy conversation. I know you're interested in that. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Nnpcl, has announced a reduction in fuel prices. Someone is saying, yes, eureka moment. But riding on the heels of significant cuts by the Dangote Refinery and key depot operators, this is more than the price slash, actually. It's a chain reaction that could influence transportation, costs, market dynamics, and household budgets. We'll break down what this means for the everyday Nigerian and whether this signals the start of a real relief.
And later on the program, we zoom in on one of Nigeria's most critical battles, the rising tide of substance abuse among young people. A big story today, The Future Matters, why education must win the fight against substance abuse, examines how knowledge, awareness, and structured learning remain our strongest shields against this silent epidemic.
All right, joining us to unpack this urgent national issue are Olanike Olatunde, General Manager of the Ayo Fatokun Foundation, and Victor Ogunshino, the Media Director of the same foundation, representing an organization committed to empowering the underprivileged, strengthening community development, advancing health education, and championing access to quality learning.
And right before that, we'll bring you the newspaper review, looking at the big stories, the subtle angles, and what they mean for me and for you.
Well, with us, as always, is journalist and seasoned public affairs analyst, Leko Shobowale, delivering sharp, grounded, and insightful analysis.
And of course, we round off with Trend Watch, your quick dive into what Nigerians are reacting to across the digital space.
It's Friday, the energy is right, and the conversations are set.
Well, you are tuned into Daybreak Live Extra on Dominion Television, informing your morning and elevating your day.
Let's get started. It's an extra, you know, 2 days to December. The energy has to be high.
And I want to ask you this morning, where do you got the energy from? As in from Monday to Friday. But this surge in your energy is way out of here.
It's a lot of back.
I mean, I'm excited.
It's a topic of big
It's
story.
just 2 days to December. You know what December is?
Are you smelling anything out there?
Nothing, but you make yourself look that way. You know, don't look like what you're going through.
It's December 1st. I think there's something about that first day of December. You know, the atmosphere, you know, tends to change most of the time, and they begin to see Christmas trees or, you know, everywhere. So let's wait.
You know, while growing up, you know, that when December is almost there, you know, you are quite sure of things are already set for you. There's this broom that is used to measure your feet to see what size of shoe you wear. You know, your clothes is ready. I mean, you are just super sure that, you know, Christmas, forget about it. And by this time, there will be chicken or maybe, you know, cow, you know, tied down somewhere in your compound. You are quite sure everything is sorted out. The only thing that is left is for you to stay healthy enough through that period and enjoy yourself.
Exactly.
These days, I'm beginning to see, you know, by this time you will see people at junctions selling chickens and some other things, but it's not looking like that.
But then I think some persons are still trying to sell. But then speaking about what you mentioned, I think I miss being a kid actually, because apart from the old Christmas thing, I'm always excited about my end of the year school party, because I get to do presentations, I get to sing, I get to collect gifts. Honestly, I don't sleep a day to my party, because I'm going to be looking at my clothes like this, because I mean I can't wait to wear it and just you know step out for my party.
I think honestly. I know remember this while growing up. You know, you are always in anticipation of what you will get when you take Christmas meals to your neighbors.
Yeah.
Well, that is
it's also one of the ways we connect in our society. It's one of the very founding ethics of my culture, or my culture generally, and then it's a nice thing to do, really. But like you also mentioned, maybe I miss childhood a bit, but then, I mean,
adulthood is no scam.
I wanted to say, but
that's why you are here.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is quite clear. Of course, Father Christmas will be coming in on the 1st of this month, and we are inviting everyone to be a part of this joyous celebration. I mean, all schools, churches, you are free to bring your watch here. It's
Even
just
adults. Because,
I mean, it's just 3,000 naira, and of course, it's going to be an enjoyable environment.
For everyone.
Yes,
Explosive.
and most importantly, you get to meet your favorite OAPs on TV and on radio, and then you take a tour of the facility. I mean, that's quite 3,000 naira for all of that. I mean, that should cost about 10,000 naira.
Honestly, and our Father Christmas is someone you love to meet. Even me, as a member of this organization,
really love to
I'm
meet
excited to see that from the videos I've seen over time, like in the last few weeks.
So get yourself down here, because this promises to be exciting. Why? Many reasons. So not just the Father Christmas, but also the package that is inherent. And maybe not lastly, to also add to it is that there's so much to enjoy. When you come around the station, just like you said, you meet with other persons, but even not meeting is not as important as some of the things that you're about to get. But I would not tell you. You need to come straight to Dominion Television.
I think that's the explanation.
That's just in a nutshell.
More than what,
in a nutshell. And that's how we'll snowball into fuel prices at this time across the country. The festive season is here, and some of these fuel marketers and refineries have decided to look, let's bring down the price a little bit. I mean, sometimes around this time, a few years ago, you'll be really worried about what it will cost to get a liter of fuel, because aside from you struggling to get fuel, what other thing you will be struggling to do is the fact that you won't even see fuel, because you will be at filling for gas stations queuing to get fuel. But I don't think that is going to happen this time around, because fuel prices, one way or the other, is dropping. According to survey conducted in Abuja, as at yesterday, about 15 naira sharp drop in price. I mean, if we can see that drastic drop in price to maybe 500 naira, don't you think that should help us enjoy Christmas a little bit?
Going forward, that would be a development, especially for this time. But beyond this time, we still are clamoring for, let's have it continuously. Let's have it not just once in a blue moon. Let it be a continuum, maybe if so to say. But exactly a good way to go. Nnpcl slashing by 15 naira, and then Dangote Refinery, because they brought it down, Nnpcl. So it's
even
that's what we're saying.
Depot owners like ITU and the rest also decided to.
That's why we are calling for a competition or a competitive market for fuel and all of these products. Why? Because it helps everybody to say, I'm selling at this rate, I want to beat you, so I can drop my price and get more customers. So it's a beautiful environment to thrive, especially for anybody who wants to venture into that, to say independent marketers are also going to benefit from this. And I know that sometimes I want to question or wonder why the price of this, or pricing, let's put it that way, is always different, especially it's always on the high side. Not that it cannot be on the low side, but for a lot of reasons, maybe for some reason beyond us and beyond them as well, they have to shoot it up. But I think it is, if we are seeing it now, so that means it could have been done before now. But I'm not saying that it should drop drastically. I'm saying that it can drop one after the other, like one step after the other, one beat after the other. I mean, so that's the way to go for Nigerians now. And this is a good one, because I remember when we were young, one of the things we do is that our parents will put on the generator, even if there's no light, for the festive period, so everybody can enjoy. And I think it's a good way to go for me personally.
Honestly, I think I agree with you both. And then I was speaking to a bike man this morning, and I was asking him that, okay, how much were you buying fuel in the last few days compared to yesterday? And then I think the reduction is about 10 to 15 hours, just like you mentioned. Yeah, it's a good development, but we still have a long way to go, because I don't think this would affect the cost of things. Exactly, transportation. Even sometimes when we see maybe a 15-hour reduction or 100-hour reduction, most of these, car owners or drivers still will not reduce, how much they charge. I mean, from a certain point to the other. So we need more reduction, and of course, we celebrate these bodies. And I actually enjoy this competition, because one thing I know is that competition help consumers more, because I mean the producers want to make sure that, okay, I want to do better than this person. And over time, I don't know, about a few weeks or few months now, we saw what happened with Dangote, with with Penkesan. A lot happened. Even Dangote came out to say that he had no idea before venturing into this sector that there are cabals in the oil sector, and then he's facing them, and it's a lot on him. That even a lot of Nigerians came out to say that, why are they frustrating this man? Because I mean, it takes someone who is intentional to invest that kind of amount in the oil sector that even the federal government cannot look at our refineries now. They are moribund. Nothing is going on. But then he invested so much in that, and we appreciate him. And of course, I think I saw a story this month that says Dangote Refinery saves Nigeria over 10 billion naira annually in forex. I think it was released officially yesterday. Now, some Nigerians are saying, what is the figure? What is the data? It's a good development. 10 billion naira is a lot.
That's a lot.
But then, I mean, how are they achieving this? But then, away from that, I think there's so much that Dangote can do for us. I think, if anything, it should be a good inspiration for us to say that we can get it right. We can get it right. Our refineries can also work, perfect. Imagine if our refineries are also working perfectly. I mean, the reduction will come in, sooner, than we expect, honestly. So I think it's a good development coming from Dangote and then coming from Nnpcl. We enjoy it, but then look at the festive period. We are getting closer to the festive period. I'm very sure you all know that, I mean, when around that 24, 25, for most persons that will travel back to their family, you will notice that whether there's a price in the there's an increase in the price of fuel or not, they will increase, they'll shoot up the price. For instance, now, let's say Ibadan to Accra normally would be 5,000 naira. If care is not taken, they might say 8 or 10. And then people who would not have choice, we have to just, pay because they need to travel to go and see their family. So we want to ensure that, this year can be a little bit different from last year. And we want to, appeal to the drivers to that. Regardless, please, let's have compassion. I mean, for every Nigerian that living in the country. Honestly.
You see, it is really sad, and that we have that kind of situation in this country. I've always said this, that it is only in Nigeria where prices of commodity actually survive the rule of gravity. When it goes up, it doesn't come down. And I mean, you begin to ask this question, even if fuel prices are reduced, some people will still give you one reason or the other why they cannot reduce the price. I was talking to someone a few years, that should be a few years ago, when fuel price was increased, and then after the fuel subsidy protest, then it was brought back to a certain amount, and then the price refused to come down. I was asking, the price for fuel has been reduced one way or the other. What exactly is the problem? He said, do you know how much we buy spare parts now? and I was shocked a little bit. Anyway, the price might be a little bit high in terms of how much it costs you to buy spare parts. But then that still does not mean that Nigerians should pay through their noses. That is totally wrong. And I feel one way or the other. You see, when you bring ideas about price control and adjustments, people will think, you are telling the government to break down on their necks. And that's not true. The fact is that Nigerians are the problems of Nigerians. Every Nigerian at his corner shops, at the supermarket, at one place or the other, they wreak havoc, and nobody's looking in that direction. The problem is that Nigerians are looking at President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the source of the problem. They are not asking questions from their local government, their councillors. They are not asking questions from their members of House of Assembly, not even from their governors, members of House of Rep or senators. They are asking the president questions that originally should be answered by people at your doorstep, people that are close to you, people at your neighborhood. How do you compare prices from one place to the other? Let me cite an instance. This is one of the simplest of examples I can cite on this show this morning. At somewhere around Gates, if you go for how do they sell these at a road, or what do they?
Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
So it is sold for 200 naira at Gates. If you move down to Bashoru, it is 500 naira. See the difference. So transportation from Gates to Bashoru is 200 or 300 naira. So what sense does it make if you sell at that rate? But the thing is, they are unapologetic about it. That's their price, and if you are not satisfied, you can go to other places to get, and that is the problem we're having. What is the rationale behind the pricing? So someone should control it. I mean, that one way or the other bring a little bit of succor to the Nigerian people, but unfortunately, nobody's looking in that direction. And someone somewhere will go to their market and see the price difference and then blame Tinubu for the problem.
I wanted to add to what you said, to say, until we start doing what they call living for others, we will not really do well, in life. Any policy, any law, any particular issue that you are tackling that is not people-centric, that would not help people, would not work. In fact, if it works, it only works for a while. If you are all about yourself, if you are all about being selfish, then it will still affect someone in another way, to affect you someday, somehow. And I want to also speak very quickly to the issue of a monopolistic market and a competitive market. Some have alleged that Dangote is a monopolist or should we say is a monopolistic entity.
Well, I can't exactly say that is
others have alleged to say that, if you have to consider who sells more with cement, who sells more with some products. So they brought it out to say, okay, it's most monopolistic. But, this is also one of the ways is getting himself out of that particular caption, because the oil market, it came in not so long, and then he's even trying to do a lot to help people. So you can see many of his policies, many of his actions are driven towards people. It's people-centric. And it makes sense at the long run, because if you have to consider the pricing before we had Dangote, it was more like once it's there, it is there. Nobody changes it except they want to change it from the top. So we understood what happened, the politics playing out at the oil sector level, and now we understand what it is like after Dangote joined. I'm trying to say that we need more competitive people, competitive markets, maybe should we call them business expatriates and all that. We need them to get into every sector. Just like you also mentioned, people selling at prices, exorbitant prices, even after
prices.
If you check, so how much will it take you to transport all of those goods to where you are going from, Babashon, or what do you call it now? If you consider, you now break it on every modicum of pepper you want to sell, I think it makes more sense, because you'll not be able to calculate 200 naira increment over the product that way, because you are not transporting just one modicum from one place. You're transporting the whole bag. So calculate the price of the bag. And I know for a fact, I know for a fact that it can never be up to 500 from 200 level, 200 naira in certain places. Why am I saying school? I'm way past that. From 200 naira of modicum in the place to 500 naira in the same Ibadan. Not even a Yo or another place. It's in the same Ibadan. So I think if we are people-centric, we do better.
Okay, so you both have a very good point, but transportation is a problem in this country. Let me cite an example now. For me, sometimes when I go to the market to get maybe like bed or fan, see, the amount they charge me, I'm like, I'm not selling this, It's for my personal use though. And you are charging me 3K from where to where now? So transportation is a big problem. And I think most of these sellers, they face that problem. And that's why you see that most of them, they will say, okay, is so much. That's why we are selling at this price. So it's a problem. So that's why I'm going back to the drivers now. Can they show a little bit of compassion? Because most of these,
mercy.
Yes, most of these sellers, like maybe they want to sell at that price, but then they are paying so much on transportation. Because I bought a fan and I'm going home, and you are charging me for like 10 heads. It's unreasonable to me. I mean, imagine if someone wants to sell that fan. Imagine how much that person will sell it because of how much they are paying on transportation. Because I mean, there's also the part of some sellers, being I don't want to call. I don't want to say. I don't want to use the word now, because I mean, most of them, they just say, okay, it's because of transportation. But there was a case in Accra. This has to do with plantain now. I think about 4 or 5, this woman was selling for maybe 1K. I can't remember. So people were complaining, and then it got to Iyaloja one way or the other. Iyaloja had to enter the market, and then she gave an instruction that all of you selling plantain, make it maybe 6 or 7. It happened at a time like that. And the people were, celebrating the Iyaloja to say, oh, thank you so much, because these people, they're actually, doing too much at this time. So people can be excessive sometimes. But I've seen cases whereby transportation is a big problem, and then these people don't have a choice than to sell at certain prices.
I think lastly, before we go, the president is doing so much in terms of diplomatically removing the bottlenecks surrounding, petroleum in the country. And I think he's doing so much. They started with Naira for crude approach, and then I think it is working for Dangote. And there are so many other things to do to make sure that the cannibalization of the oil industry is put to an end. It's something that has really affected us one way or the other. There are some people who are beneficiaries of the wrath in that industry, and that should be put to an end. And we're talking about what you said earlier about the industry being a monopolistic environment. Yes, the Nnpcl did that a long time ago, where it is just an Nnpcl. They had refineries, they control it, and most definitely when it came to importation of fuel, they controlled everything. Even as of now, they have a hand in what is going on. At least they have a share in the Dangote Refinery. But one thing I have seen right now is that I think it has been unbundled a little bit. Abdusama Rabiu, who is the chairman of Boa Group, I think is also said to be having a refinery being built in Akwa Ibom, and there are so many other modular refineries. If all of them come to the table and then see exactly what they can do to help Nigerians, aside from bringing down the cost of fuel, other things they can do is to make sure that cost of transportation does not eventually, you know, because when you reduce cost of the selling cost, how about how it will get to to Sokoto, how it will get to Kano or Abuja? So it means that they have to pay a certain cost. Just like you said earlier, the cost of transportation is also another factor that is killing every business in the country. And I think this is the fine place to leave it and take weather report on this show this morning.